Hello everyone, I am the Lore Explorer and this is The Outer Wilds, an open solar system exploration game that has made me think more than any other game I have ever played. Just last episode, we talked to a Nomai who has been dead for 200,000 years, and they sent us on a mission to something older than the universe itself. Well, we are parked in a stable orbit around the planet down below, and there is a black hole ready to carry us down to the surface. Before we go down, we stop to remember all the Nomai who got us here, and all the Hearthians who died so we can get here. After we get a grip, we can jump through the black hole. I'd like to mention that there's not much factual lore surrounding the eye, as nothing coming up next has been officially explained. We are just left to interpret it for ourselves. In this video, I will just be going through what we do know as we walk through the ending. Next video, I will make a in-depth theory about each step as we go along through this process. Jumping through the black hole is immediately off-putting. Luckily, the quantum moon has slightly prepared us for the creepy atmosphere that spreads out before us. The ground is the same blue, crystal-like substance, while the walls look like the quantum shards scattered around our solar system. This must be a fully fledged quantum planet. Turning around, we see how the vessel was meant to look. It has two huge windows in front, but all in all, the entire vessel leaves us in awe. We can also spot the quantum moon in its orbit of origin. Turning back around, we are met with the view of a dust cloud, which I believe is lit by electricity. All around lay small shards, large shards, and they scatter the landscape. Eventually, the purple dust is no longer in the distance. It hovers above us on the horizon. Firing our probe through the atmosphere and trying to snap a picture tells us we have lost connection with it. They are supposed to be connected through wormholes, so something is off here. Continuing in our journey, we are walking along as we hear a loud bang. Lightning flashes, and as it hits the ground, a tree appears where it strikes, and with the next, a stone. We are now walking through a quantum lightning storm, and we don't even have an umbrella. Eventually, we make it through the storm, and something comes into view. A huge hole sucking in all the dust swirling around it. Only one thing comes to mind. Black hole. But that's for another video. Moving to get underneath, we find ourselves standing at a ledge. A large crater lay directly underneath the hole. Jumping down, we are surprised to see we are sticking to the side of the crater. Pulling out our signal scope, we can look up to see the hole is emitting a quantum signal. It seems clear what we need to do. We can climb the vertical crystals here and jump. Falling through the hole in the sky, we enter what can only be described as a wormhole. Once we exit the hole, we are falling in a mysterious chamber with vertical pillar-like structures all around. Slowly falling, we finally hit the ground, and instantly we are in Timur Hertz's Observatory. To our left is a familiar portrait, but the podium reads something strange. Outer Wilds Ventures was founded to explore a solar system at the end of the universe. The podium for the statue says the Nomai never got to see it, but with their effort, a Hearthian was able to reach the eye. The Nomai remains fittingly explain how the Nomai died, but we are here for what's upstairs. Going through a slightly altered observatory, we can climb the ramp. Once we get to the top, we find a bright light where the map of our solar system should be. Inspecting it closely, it's hundreds of thousands of tiny lights. I think this is supposed to represent the entire universe. Pressing this corresponding button, we can initiate the option to observe the universe. As we do, the camera zooms out, and we see the observatory sitting atop the eye of the universe, on its north pole. It continues to zoom out as the purple dust flashes and dances below. As the camera keeps zooming, we see galaxies fading out all around us. We eventually pass up to get a view of all of them, the entire universe. The second we move to get a better view, it scatters to the wind in a blue blur. As it does, we notice more lights just beyond it. Making our way closer, we notice these lights are spread throughout the trees. Bumping into them causes them to scatter to the quantum wind. We find ourselves in a forest. with galaxies floating around us like fireflies. There is almost no gravity here, and it doesn't seem like I am using any fuel to fly around. Jumping to see if we can find a ceiling, we see the lights below blink out. Panicking, we look around for something, anything, and above us, we spot lights blink on, and we are in the same place we were before. Roaming a while, our signal scope informs us of a nearby signal. Following it, we are greeted by ourselves? The Hearthian before us mimics our every move. Getting too close, trying to identify it, it gets dark, and your clone is replaced by a tree. Following the rules, we flick our flashlight in rapid succession, and the tree reverts to a younger and younger state, until eventually it turns into a fire pit. Finally, some comfort. Lighting the fire, we can grab our emergency stash of marshmallows and toast one to clear our mind. Turning our head, we notice a new rocking chair. Spinning around quickly, Esker appears as if nothing is out of place. Talking to them, they ask if we hear music. Pulling out our signal scope, we hear Esker was right. A banjo happily plucks its strings in the background. Tracking it down, we see it's coming from inside a Nomai building. Flicking our flashlight, the building crumbles before our eyes, giving us access to the banjo inside. Heading back to the campfire, Rebik has now joined Esker. They tell us we still need to find the others to begin, but take your time, because we're not sure it even exists here. Pulling out the signal scope, we see multiple signals. Following the drum signal leads us to a microscope with 2 eye holes, which is aimed at stars floating in the distance. Zooming in with our signal scope, we see the drums orbiting the sun, and to get the option to gather them. Back at camp, Chert has joined us. They mention they still find beauty in the stars that ultimately killed them. The next signal we follow is Gabbro, which leads us to signposts. Following the post, they read, "The quiet shade across old bark, in the ancient glade, it's always dark." The last signpost points up, and we can use our jetpack to get the flute in the hammock. At the campfire, Gabbro just tells us to find the others. Following Feldspar's signal gives us some terrifying flashbacks as an angler emerges from the dark. Thinking quickly, we flash our light and it disappears. Once past it, we reach a stump with the harmonica, and jellyfishes send all around us. Back at camp, Feldspar is happy to have company again, but tells you we need to find someone else. But these are all the Hearthians, so we are not sure who we are being led to. We don't recognize the music either, but we can follow the signal. The signal leads us to a stump surrounded by Nomai skeletons pointing towards the sky. Flashing our light reveals one appears on the stump. As we keep flashing, they keep stacking until eventually a Nomai shuttle appears. Entering the shuttle and launching flings us towards a bright white light. When you reach it, the shuttle disappears and we are left floating in space, with a Nomai mask rotating before us. Gathering it leaves us back at the stump. Back at the campfire, we see Solanum. She was able to visit the eye in a sense after all. True to Nomai fashion, she just wonders what happens now a conscious observer has entered the eye. I'd like to point out that Solanum talks in the Hearthian language, which is a fact that was lost on me until it was pointed out. With all of our friends here, we can begin. Talking to them all, we can ask them to start playing music. One by one, their instruments start up until a beautiful song fills the night sky. A ball of smoke begins to form above the campfire. It slowly grows as the music swells. Whatever is happening here may be a bit relaxing, but these are the most important minutes in the universe, if we are even still in it. Shadowy images start flashing inside the ball. The only shapes I clearly recognize were an anglerfish and our ship, as well as a few simple shapes like leaves or trees. Inside the ball are also flashes of strange symbols or shapes all bent up. Talking to our friends once again, they are glad to be here together and are glad they got to learn so much. I'll go into more detail on my theory video for the eye. Solemnum asks us if we are ready for what comes next. All that's left is to collapse the innumerable possibilities. Once ready, she reassures us and tells us we will find out together, whatever it is. Jumping into the globe, it immediately shrinks to the size of a golf ball and falls to just above the fire. Then, the very ground we stand on stretches away, and all of our friends do the same. Then, what looks like the globe appears before us and explodes into a brilliant ball of pure white light. The light radiates around us. Eventually, it takes up our entire screen. And that's our fate. The screen fades, and the credits roll. But after they finish, text appears on the screen that reads, 14.3 billion years later. A short video starts playing, with a field of stars in view. It starts to pan back and reveals new planets that seem to be quite different than the planets we have explored. Eventually, we do see something familiar. A forest surrounds a campfire, where bug-like creatures sit around it, roasting marshmallows. And, as a little surprise, the scout we lost at the eye zooms on past. The title screen comes up. We have completed the Outer Wilds. I know this wasn't much of a lore video, but that's because of none of this is ever explained in-game. We are left with many questions, but ultimately, it seems like we may have saved the universe. In the next episode, I'm going to be doing an in-depth theory video regarding the eye, where I go through most scenes explaining what I think is happening, and I think it's a pretty good theory. If you guys can leave your theories in the comments below this video, I'd love to hear your opinion before I start the next one. Thanks for watching, and this is the Lore Explorer, digging deep into the story so you don't have to.